Hi DIYers, this is Frank at Alarm Grid. Today we're in the Alarm Grid lab working on the Honeywell 5800 PIR-RES. That stands for Residential Alarm System. What this is a wireless pet immune motion detector. As far as pet immunity goes, it's spec'd at 80 pounds, up to 80 pounds. Now when it comes to pet immunity, usually you want to weigh on the side of caution with that. We prefer, pets to be smaller than 80 pounds. And even in that case, you want to have the motion detector somewhere not with furniture or stairwell where the pets could potentially jump up and down and potentially get the profile of a human or trip this unit. So although it is pet immune up to 80 pounds, you want to be cognizant of keeping it out of range of a stairwell or any furniture that your animal may jump up and down off of. So what we're going to do today is program the 5800 PIR-RES. This is a wireless motion, usually designed to sit in the corner of your wall. We have an install video for this as well. You can check that out on our channel. So for today, we're just going to program it. So what we'll do is a first step into programming with the Lynx L5210 panel today. This is the new Honeywell self-contained panel. Its predecessor, the L5200, was the first of the firmware upgradable systems that Honeywell offered. Now we have the L5210, essentially the same system, except smaller screen, basically same programming though, but we'll show you on this system just so that you have an idea of what it looks like. So in order to get into programming, what we'll do is we'll hit the home button, security, more, and then tools. We'll enter 4112 for the default installer code. Now if you've changed your installer code, you obviously want to use that code. This is not to be confused with the master code, which is 1234 by default, and usually that's changed to something else for you to arm and disarm. Once you're in programming using the installer code, we can hit program, and then we'll go right into zones. Okay, when you're in zones, by default there's some zones that are already here. If you haven't programmed sensors yet, you can go into the motion sensor zone just because it's already named for you. Or if you do have zones existing on the system, you can just go into a new unused zone and select edit. For today's purposes, we'll use the motion sensor zone and click edit. The loop number here will be automatically assigned when we enroll the unit because we usually like to auto enroll these. We'll hit the serial number, and then it'll say activate sensor. Okay, so this unit actually ships with the battery outside of the unit. So there's a Panasonic lithium CR123. It's a 3-volt cylindrical battery that's designed to power the 5800 PIR-RES. So what we want to do first is take a flathead screwdriver, and you can just basically lightly press the tamper here, and actually we'll actually clear this here. We'll clear anything that pops in here until we get the battery in. If there's another sensor that's picking you up, you don't want to auto enroll that accidentally. So we'll clear that. We have the 5800 PIR-RES opened, and you'll see that there's an empty battery compartment. We have a plus and minus here. You'll see obviously on the plus side of the battery, we'll put that straight in. Once it's in, you'll see the LED flash. Okay, that means that it's enrolling into the system. What we can do now is for the motion detector, we can manually enter it, which in most cases is the easiest way, unless you're able to fault it a few times and get it into the system. Door and window contacts a little bit easier because they fault quicker. The motion sensor has a transmission lockout on it that's designed for a battery saving feature. So after it faults twice, it's actually going to go to sleep, which will make it difficult to fault and auto enroll. So what we'll do is we'll manually enter the serial number here. It's listed with the number as A as an alpha, and then the 7-digit number. Now again, I'm sitting in front of a motion here that's already installed, and I'm picking that up. So now we're going to clear that out and manually enter this. We have 0809042. We'll hit done. Now we can close up this unit. I find that hinging from the top and snapping the bottom shut is the easiest thing to do. You always want to have the motion sensor oriented this way with the look down sensor facing towards the bottom. If you don't do that and it's upside down, it can cause issues. When you do a walk test, you probably notice that it won't reliably fault based on motion. It's designed to be right side up with the tapered edge towards the top and the mirror, the look down area towards the bottom. So now we can put the sensor down for a moment. We'll always want to have the motion detector on loop 1, okay? And we can name the zone. If you want to put it in the living room, we can type in living. You type in LIV, it'll automatically put in living. And then we have the device type as motion sensor. We have the response type automatically set to interior follower, okay? So what that means is interior follower is a setting. Any of the interior response types are set for motions. And what that means is that they're automatically disabled during arm stay mode, okay? The difference between arm away and arm stay is when you're staying at home at night and going to bed, you can arm the system to stay mode, and that will basically allow you to walk throughout your home and not trip the motions, but have a protected perimeter with your doors and windows, and even select some motions to be part of that list if you'd like, and we can discuss night stay mode later. For now, in terms of the two types of interior response types for the motion, we have interior follower and we have interior with delay, okay? Interior follower, basically what it does is it follows your entry delay. So if you have an entry door, say your front door is on entry delay 1 and set to 30-second entry delay, when you walk in that front door, the system tells that motion that it has 30 seconds now to disarm, okay? If there's an intruder that gets in, or anyone that gets into the home and that front door is not opened, or any entry exit delay door is not opened, then and that motion is tripped, it will trip the alarm immediately. However, if you open that front door and there's a delay period, then that motion will allow the motion to exist until that delay period expires, okay? Interior with delay, the difference there is it doesn't matter what happens with the front door, it doesn't matter anything else. When that motion first detects motion, there's a delay period no matter what, okay? Whereas with interior follower, it can be an instant alarm if it doesn't sense the entry-exit door opening first, okay? That's the difference. That's why usually we recommend interior follower, because it's a bit more secure. The interior delay with delay would be a motion for an area where you don't have a door contact. Maybe you don't have a contact in your back door and you just have a motion there, and you potentially may enter through that door to enter the home and disarm. Then you'd want to set that motion to interior with delay. Otherwise, you want to have it on interior follower. So for today, we'll set it on interior follower. We have, as always, we have the alarm report set to yes. That means that it's actually going to send signal history reporting to your central station if you do indeed have monitoring set up. We have the chime. By default, the chime is disabled, usually because the motion is not something that you want to have a chime every time. If you had a motion in, a secure area where every time it trips you do want a chime, then you can enable it just by toggling through here, hitting standard, or choosing whatever chime tone you like, and then saving, okay? For today's purposes, we'll just cut through here and we'll leave it disabled for now. The supervision, this is something that is important on all RF devices. The supervision is something that essentially allows the system to keep in communication with this motion detector. What it allows it to do is if that motion detector ever failed and stopped communicating wirelessly back to the system, it would automatically throw a trouble error on the keypad, and you would then know that there's an issue with the wireless transmissions on this wireless motion detector. So you always want to have that enabled. If you don't have it enabled and the sensor stops communicating, you'll never know. So you always want to have it supervised, so we can leave that there. If you hit the page down, there's actually a selection on the L5200 series panels, including the L5210 and the L7000. What this allows you to do is it gives you an arm night selection, okay? If you set this to yes, per motion sensor, you can enable arm night mode. And what that means is, going back to the conversation on arm stay and arm away, you actually have the ability to choose specific motion sensors and allow them to be enabled when you arm stay at night. So you can have a specific mode when you go to arm, We can show you that in a moment, where if you set this to yes, it will allow you to have that motion sensor be active without the others being active. So for example, you have a basement motion detector. At night you arm the system. You don't plan on ever going down in your basement and you want to protect it from any intrusion at night, but you want to be able to walk through your house and get a cup of water at night in the kitchen and not trip any other motions throughout the main area of the home. So for today, we'll set this to yes. We'll go ahead and hit save. We'll back out of programming. And until you set one motion sensor to night stay mode, you won't see an arm night stay selection, okay? And where you see that is you go into arm stay from the security section, and you'll actually see a little arm night toggle. Now you won't see that unless you say yes on one of those zones. Once you do, it'll automatically populate, and then you can select if you want to choose night stay or not. If you arm it without toggling this, it'll arm without any motions active. If you toggle this and it's green, then you can enter your code at that point and go ahead and hit your master code. And in this case, because I'm tripping a motion, it didn't let me go, but I'll do arm night stay, enter my master code, and it would then arm the system. I'm tripping other motions here, which is why it's not allowing me to arm. But this is why this is a good selection for motion detectors. Put in secure closets, maybe your master bedroom closet where you have any valuable belongings, basements, laundry rooms, whatever it may be, any entry points that you don't plan on entering those areas when you arm at night. So that's a new feature on these new Lynx Touch panels that adds some more flexibility when it comes to the motion sensors. So after the unit's programmed, what you want to do is test, right? So I'm already seeing that every once in a while, this is tripping. I'm getting the red LED flash to show that it's tripping, and it's showing my zone 5 living motion on the screen here. You can see again, it's doing it again. The first few minutes when this powers up, you're going to get the red LED flashes based on motion detection. After those first 3 minutes, you will not see that LED. So if this no longer shows the LED, it doesn't mean it's not working. It is still working, okay? And there's two settings that can be very tricky when testing this. One is the transmission lockout. The transmission lockout feature is a feature that allows this sensor on this single battery to last up to 5 years, okay? And what it does is after the second time that this senses motion, when the system is disarmed, only when the system is disarmed, it goes to sleep for 3 minutes, okay? Now again, in the first 3 minutes when this is still flashing, it's not going to do that. But after that period, it's then that transmission lockout feature will be enabled. And after the second trip, it will go to sleep for 3 minutes and nothing will wake it up, not even arming the system, okay? Now, don't be worried about that, because even if you did put it to sleep just before arming, it will wake up within the 3 minutes, at 3 minutes, and then automatically be active. And if it's ever tripped again, obviously it'll trip an alarm. So you don't have to worry about it going to sleep and staying asleep when it's armed. But when testing, it can be tricky. So you want to stay away from the motion detector if possible. Put it in a drawer, maybe step out of the room. If the keypad is within direct line of sight to the motion when you're arming it, you probably want to block it or just arm it and give it a few minutes to really make sure that it's armed and active and out of that battery saving timeout. The other feature is auto stay. Okay, now the L5210 has auto stay arming automatically enabled, and we recommend keeping it that way. The reason why is auto stay is a feature that allows the panel to intelligently know when you do or do not get out of the home in time, right? So for example, say you're testing, you arm the system away so that the motion detector is enabled, because if you arm stay and you don't set it to the arm night stay mode, then it will not be active, right? So in order to test this, you always need to arm away. Now, if you arm away and you notice that after the countdown it goes automatically to stay, it's not something you're doing wrong. It's a feature in the system. And what it means is that the system is looking for an entry-exit door to open and close. So if you already have a door or window that's programmed, you can arm away, step over that door or window, you can open and close the door to allow the system to know, okay, that the user has left the home and now we can arm away and not have any false alarms with the motion detector tripping if for whatever reason maybe you didn't get out of the house in time, you got a phone call on your way out and you just didn't get out of the house. We don't want to have, the panel wants to reduce false alarms, so that's why that feature is enabled. With all that said, you can disable auto stay arming if you like, but I just want you to keep that technology in mind as you're testing. So once you're done with all the programming, you can go into a walk test, and just by going into tools, entering your installer code or master code, going into test and walk test, and then you can actually walk throughout all your sensors, including your new 5800 PIR-RES, and test it and make sure that it's faulting on the panel. You can enable the Chime on it just for testing as well, but the walk test is a good feature. It doesn't require Chime being enabled, so that you can get an audible beep at the keypad after it's tripped. So if you have any other questions on the 5800 PIR-RES, you can email us at support@alarmgrid.com, and also please subscribe to our channel.